Hey everyone, welcome to MTG Breakfast, episode 4. This is your one-stop shop for everything magic related. I'm your host, Ashlen Rose, and today we have a lot to cover, but before we get to it, there is one quick reminder. We are having the Facebook contest for the Commander 2015 decks, and if you would like to be a part of it, head on over to Facebook before it's too late to like and comment to enter. With all that being said, let's go ahead and see what's happened in the news. This week was the week for reveals, apparently, because we had the holiday promo revealed, which is Goblin Sleigh Ride, and I think it's perfect. What better way to celebrate the holidays than taking a Goblin Sleigh Ride? What could go wrong? On top of that, there's also the Oath of the Gatewatch reveals. There was a leak for the pre-release packaging for Oath of the Gatewatch, so you can get a sneak peek of that. And there was also a legendary creature revealed. It is a core cleric. You can find both of those leaks on gatheringmagic.com, where we'll have an article for it. For those of you who have attended or will be attending Gen Con, you will be excited to hear that for 2016 they are expanding the convention. They will be moving it over to include Lucas Oil Stadium. This means that the famous True Dungeon event will be relocating over to the actual stadium, so you're going to have a whole lot more room for that. And then there will also be more room at the actual convention for other events. If you want to see the announcement for this, we will have that included in the description below. With the end of the year approaching, so does the Magic World Cup, which airs this Friday. You can find coverage of the event on dailymtg.com or over on twitch.tv/magic. Also, our Commander 2015 contest is still underway and will be going until December 14th. So if you haven't entered yet, you still have time. All you need to do is go over to Gathering Magic's Facebook and find the Commander 2015 post, like it, and then comment with your favorite commander. So let us know, and we'll be choosing 5 winners at random who will be announced on the next episode of MTG Breakfast. And if you have any questions, feel free to email us at mtgbreakfast@gatheringmagic.com. And finally, the Grand Prix promo has been revealed, and it is none other than the Legacy staple Stoneforge Mystic, and it is a gorgeous, gorgeous promo card. It has brand new art, and if you want one, you can start earning them at the start of next year, which is less than 30 days from now. That's all the news we have for this week. Let's go ahead and head over to MTG Finance to see what advice Jim has for us today.
Hey guys, welcome to the MTG Finance Minute. My name is Jim Casal, and I'm here to bring you an update on the world of Magic Finance. This past weekend, there wasn't a whole lot of Magic news outside of some unconfirmed Oath of the Gatewatch spoilers. Personally, I think that the spoilers are real. They've been heavily vetted, and it's hard to point out any serious flaw that would make them fake. The Expedition Mystic Gate pretty much guarantees that 10 of the 20 expeditions in Oath of the Gatewatch will be the Shadowmoor and Eventide filter lands. Thankfully, most of them are not heavily played, except for Twilight Mire, so these lands will probably end up in the $50 to $60 range. If I had to guess, the other 10 lands will probably be another 10 land card cycle, and probably be the dual land man lands from original Zendikar block and the ones that are being finished in Battle for Zendikar block. If the Mystic Gate is real, then it also confirms the existence of the new colorless mana symbol. I would recommend looking into the staples of colorless commander decks, as they will be the first things that people try to buy after getting Oath of the Gatewatch. Previously, colorless decks had great commander choices, but poor mana bases, often making them very expensive to make. I would keep an eye out on powerful colorless enablers and finishers like Ugin the Spirit Dragon, Karn Liberated, Metalworker, Kodoltha Forgemaster, and Eye of Ugin. Finally, if you're looking to finish out your standard collection of Battle for Zendikar cards, the next week or two is going to be their lowest price points until the end of next year. Gideon is a far cry from his once $50 price point and can be found affordably below $30 now. I'd also recommend filling out your playsets of Battlelands, Shambling Events, and Lumbering Falls, because they will become much more in demand after Khans of Tarkir and Fate Reforged rotate. Thanks for listening, guys. If you'd like to enjoy more of my content, I write for MTGBreakfast.com every Tuesday. And with that, I leave you with the top 5 winners and losers this week, brought to you by MTGprice.com.
Nothing like a good homebrew. You know, last week we returned to Ravnica. This week, we're gonna crash some gates. Gate Crash, the second installment in the Return to Ravnica block, was released on February 1st, 2013, and is Magic's 60th expansion. This block hosted the 5 guilds that didn't appear in Return to Ravnica, which were the Boros Legion, House Dimir, Gruul Clans, Orzhov Syndicate, and the Simic Combine. The set was home to 2 planeswalkers, Gideon and all of his Gideonness, and a new kid on the block, Domrirad. A 3-mana RG walker emerged from the outskirts of Ravnica. A young beast trainer with an inkling for pit fights, Domri was a house in Standard and unfortunately has not been seen on a planeswalker card since. He was quoted on the Stomping Grounds reprint, however, so find that flavor text for some hidden Domri treasure. Wow, this pack was fire! Look at all this red mana! Our rare this time is Legion Loyalist, a 1/1 hasty goblin soldier repping Boros colors and the battalion mechanic. He reads, whenever Legion Loyalist and at least 2 other creatures attack, creatures you control gain first strike and trample until end of turn, and can't be blocked by creature tokens. Yep, this card is sweet. And so is this foily mountain. Hot damn! And that's the pack. You can find me, the Magic Man Sam, on YouTube and Twitter by following the links below. Thanks for watching, everybody. Cheers!
Hi there, it's Kevin with Deckbuilder.com. Today I'm going to talk about printing safety valves in new blocks to keep the old blocks in check, and why Battle for Zendikar failed in keeping Khans of Tarkir from dominating the standard format. First I want to talk about what a safety valve is. Each block usually has 1 or 2 focal point themes to the block. In Scars of Mirrodin we had an artifact theme. In Innistrad we saw a graveyard-based theme with Flashback and Undying. Ravnica was a multicolored block. Theros had Devotion and Enchantments and Constellation, and Khans focused on 3-colored clans. With every preceding block or core set, there was usually more than a handful of cards specifically printed to keep the old block in check. These cards rarely had much implication in their own blocks, but were specifically printed for this role. For example, when Innistrad was printed, we needed a way to deal with Scars of Mirrodin, so they printed a card called Stony Silence and reprinted the card Ancient Grudge to be able to deal with artifacts. When Ravnica was printed, we had to deal with Flashback and Undying, so they printed Rest in Peace and Scavenging Ooze, as well as there was a minor token-based theme from Innistrad, so they printed a card called Illness of the Ranks. When Theros was printed, they really wanted to go back from a 4-colored decks to more of these monocolored decks, so they printed Devotion, which also got a bit of a bump from the hybrid cards like Nightveil Spectre that could enable Master of Waves and Greymature of Asphodel, but the focus was really on Devotion, not on the multicolored decks. They also printed a card called Burning Earth that to specifically punish greedy mana bases. When Khans of Tarkir was printed, we needed a way to deal with indestructible gods, so they printed a card in white called Erase. We also got a card out of green called Back to Nature that could deal with the constellation-based themes or enchantment creatures. So that brings us to Battle for Zendikar. Battle for Zendikar had 2 major themes that currently are still plaguing Standard. One is the 3-colored shard cards that, by themselves, they printed them specifically to be very powerful so that we'd be incentivized to play one of these shards, one of the clans. But they thought that that was their drawback, because you had to have 3 cards, or 3 colors, to cast these cards. But the fetch lands, now paired with the Battle for Zendikar battle lands, made this incredibly easy, and actually made Khans of Tarkir a lot better of a block than it previously was. Also, Delve, with fetch lands being a lot more viable with the battle lands, going from playing maybe 4 fetch lands up to 10, 12, 14 fetch lands, also made Delve a lot more spicy. And then in Origins was also printed a looter in the form of Jace that was able to put a ton of cards in the graveyard. So Delve got a lot better. The 3-colored shard cards got a lot better rather than worse, and that is why we're seeing more of a Khans of Tarkir block again rather than cards being played from Battle for Zendikar. So I'd like to see a card that punishes greedy mana bases. Is Blood Moon the right card? Probably not. Is Burning Earth the right card? I think Burning Earth is probably on par for power level for Standard. However, Blood Moon does desperately need a reprint for Modern, as it is approaching $35-40. As far as cards that can interact with Delve or shut down Delve, there's cards like Relic of Progenitus, Scavenging Ooze, Leyline of Void, Nile Spellbomb, Withered Wretch, that I think that would be great not only for ingest, but also keep the Delve in check. So what cards do you think would keep Delve and the 3-colored shards in check? As always, I'm interested in your comments in the comment section below. This has been Kevin with RogueDeckbuilder.com. Thanks for watching.
Hey there guys, welcome to Call a Judge. My name is Morgan, and today I'd like to talk about everybody's favorite color pairing commander, blue and red. From chaos to combo, blue and red is going to cast a lot of spells over the course of the game, so let's jump in. First, let's talk about the headlining blue-red general nowadays, Mizzix of the Ismagus. Mizzix reduces the cost of instants and sorceries by 1 for each experience counter you have. Cost-reducing effects such as Mizzix will reduce the total cost of the spell, including buyback, kicker, and overload costs. Mizzix will also give you experience counters based on the converted mana cost of the spell. This will look at what is printed in the upper right-hand corner of the spell, as opposed to the cost of the spell with buyback, kicker, or overload. Mizzix's Mastery is probably the coolest card to come out of the Commander 2015 print run, and you might recognize it from some of the Legendary Cube videos that Newmont and I have been putting up recently. Mizzix's Mastery is a sorcery for 3 and a red that says exile target card that's an instant or sorcery from your graveyard. For each card exiled this way, copy it, and you may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. Exile Mizzix's Mastery. The wording is a little weird, but it makes sense when you learn that the spell also has overload. When you cast spells without paying their mana costs, such as with Mizzix's Mastery, you still have to pay the additional cost and optional costs like kicker or buyback. An example of a card with an additional cost that you need to pay when you're casting it is Fling. Fling deals damage to target creature or player equal to the sacrificed creature's power. So you have to sacrifice a creature in order to cast Fling with Mizzix's Mastery. Example of an optional cost would be the kicker cost on Urza's Rage. If you're using Mizzix's Mastery to cast spells and you are trying to cast a spell with overload, you can't actually pay the overload cost for the spell because Mizzix's Mastery and overload are both alternative costs and you can only choose one to play. Let's take a look at a different way to cast spells, copying them. Copies keep track of whether the original spell was kicked or not, and they keep track of additional costs paid. For example, the power of the sacrificed creature in Fling. It also keeps track of modes chosen, for example, on a Tarkus command. Chosen modes stay the same, although you can frequently choose new targets for the modes. When it comes to the difference between casting and copying spells, remember, Storm Count includes spells that were cast without paying their mana costs, but not copies of spells. The really important thing about playing with a lot of spells in Commander is just reading the cards. A lot of the time, they do exactly what they say. Sometimes older formatting can get kind of hazy, but in that case, Oracle Text is your best friend. If you need to call a judge, leave questions in the comment section below or email rules@gatheringmagic.com and you may just get your question answered on the next segment.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Lore Corner, or whatever you want to call it, where we talk about lore. And last week we left off talking about Zendikar and how the Titans decided to test the waters, or, well, bars of the Hedron prison to see if they could actually break free. And the result of that was the Brood lineage came about, the little spawnings that are kind of like lesser Eldrazi, and also the vampires were enslaved by the Eldrazi. The result of all this is what is known as Zyndakar's Awakening. So that's what we're going to be discussing today. With the prison reinforced, the brood lineages stopped spawning, so that was great, but what was already there remained on Zendikar. Because of this, the sentient beings that lived on Zendikar were dying in droves, and so Zendikar fought back. It built its own type of enormous Eldrazi immune system to fight the leftover Lesser Eldrazi. And eventually, the Lesser Eldrazi died off. And slowly, over time, over thousands and thousands of years, Zendikar recovered. Yes, there were still these giant petrified Eldrazi titans, but they couldn't do anything. Thousands of years have passed, and the magic-infused lands are now a world of adventure and mystery. It had been so long since all of that had happened that there weren't really any details left. All there were the Hedron stones that not too many people knew what they were for, and the petrified titans, which were buried deep beneath the ground at this point. And there were the gods, the rumored gods of the merfolk and the core. So there's Emiria, Emrakul, Ula, Mog, and Kazi, Lek. So we have the forgotten memories of the Eldrazi and Zendikar recovering. Everything's great, right? Not really. Everything's fine right now, but everyone knows that when things are looking good, the worst is yet to come. And what am I talking about? The rise of the Eldrazi. But that's all the time we have for this week. Tune in next week to find out more. For now, let's go ahead and see what Adam has in store for us with Commander.
Hey Magic YouTubers, it's the Stibs, coming to you with another Commander Spotlight. This week I want to talk about what the best color combination for building Commander decks around are. This is for new players kind of getting in the format, people that need guideposts. Now, caveat, build around your favorite colors. That's always going to be the top priority. Just take cards you want to play in the format, pile them together with some lands and go. But if you don't know what to do, or you're kind of curious about Commander and you want to make sure that you've got stuff to do and you feel like you're kind of keeping up with everyone, there's one color combination I think stands out above the rest, and that's green-black. So green and black bring very different things to Commander, and they have one major overlap. So black can bring massive creature destruction, targeted creature destruction. It can blow up planeswalkers directly. Through paying for life, you can do almost anything you want, namely drawing a bunch of cards, which is good. It's the best at manipulating the graveyard, so getting stuff back over and over and over, particularly creatures, is very easy for black to do. Green can't deal with creatures at all. Similarly, black can't deal with artifacts and enchantments, and this is why they complement each other, because green can deal with artifacts and enchantments. Green also has the most efficient creatures, so if you want to make a whole bunch of tokens, or you want to just cast some massive, huge creature that can kind of dominate the game by itself, you're going to get that out of green. Green also has ways of getting stuff back from the graveyard and kind of manipulating things. So like Den Protector and Eternal Witness are really big staples for just getting stuff back. And that's why together they just form a really good synergistic pair. So if you look at, like, for example, the new Commander deck in Commander 2015 with green-black, you've got Marin of Clan Neltoth, and Marin is literally a commander that just shouts this at you. It says, at the end of every one of your turns, get a creature back from your graveyard. And that's awesome. So just getting back it over and over is great. If you get experience counters and you get to put it on the battlefield, that's fine too. But more importantly, you're just getting something back over and over and over. And the fact that you can just play massive efficient creatures like Verdant Force or Butcher Malakir, just multiplayer madhouse power. It just kind of takes over a game if nobody answers it right away. And the fact that your commander lets you get it back whenever somebody else kills it is just amazing. It's one of those pairs of colors that when you start adding together all the little things that they can do individually, it turns out it works together synergistically. And that's really the crux of what makes a great commander plan. You've got individually cool things to do, unique powerful things that you want, and they happen to all kind of work together in a big machine. So that's why I think black-green together is the best color combination to build around a commander. What do you think the best color combination is? I want to know if you think some other combination's different, or just one color or three colors, just what you think players that need some guideposts should be building around. Let me know. Sound off in the comments below, or hit me up on Twitter at @the_stibs, STYBS. Let me know, and maybe I'll talk about it in a future Commander Spotlight. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Keith Adams, and I collect Magic the Gathering misprints, test prints, and oddities. If there's anything strange with it, I want to have it. And let me share with you one of the cards that I have. Right here is a Chronicles City of Brass that was crimped by the packaging, and it was crimped so bad that the top of the card is actually missing. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more stuff like this, please feel free to tune into my own YouTube channel, and stay tuned, we'll have more like this next week.
Hey everyone, my name is Wedge, and I'm here to talk to you about MTG History. Last week's episode covered a card that gave Commander players nightmares, Braid's Cabal Minion. This week's card, oh man, there have only been a few times in Magic's history when a deck was so powerful, basically every piece of it had to be banned out. We'll be talking Standard today, but not Battle for Zendikar Standard, Urza's Saga Standard. Today our featured card is Fluctuator. Yeah, brace yourselves. Fluctuator is 2 colorless for an artifact. Cycling abilities you activate cost you up to 2 less to activate. For those of you who don't know, cycling is a mechanic that lets you pay a cost and discard a card from your hand to draw a card. Urza Saga was the first set to print this mechanic. It started off simple enough with cards like Lull and Sicken. Throughout time, cycling has been reprinted more often than any other non-evergreen keyword, eventually exploring alternative costs and additional effects on cast. See Street Wraith and Resounding Thunder for reference. Anywho, we digress. Urza Saga was printed in late 1998, and with it came one of the most terrifying Standard seasons in the history of the game, arguably enabling the most powerful Standard deck to ever exist. Fluctuator was a huge part of that overpowered strategy. In the winter of 1998, known as Combo Winter, Fluctuator was a menace. Urza Saga did bring the first cycle of cycling cards, but the cost to cycle was always 2 colorless. Fluctuator reduces cycling cost by 2 colorless. You see where I'm going here, right? Players would pack their decks with a ton of cycling cards, Fluctuator, and whatever they needed to win the game. That would be the whole deck. They'd just cycle through until they found what they needed and win that way. The card was simply too efficient. The winter of 1998 was a rough time, and come spring, Wizards had finally had it with the overpowered Standard format. Fluctuator was finally banned in March of 1999, citing the absolute broken interaction between the artifact and the essentially free card replacement synergy in the deck. Don't feel bad for Fluctuator, by the way, it wasn't alone. 6 cards were also banned in Standard at the exact same time. The previous ban announcement emergency banned 2 cards, and the next ban announcement in that same year would ban another overpowered menace. So where is Fluctuator now? Well, the card doesn't demand that much attention, as it's completely legal to play in Legacy, Vintage, and Commander. As it turns out, cycling was very powerful in Standard way back when, just not so much now. What do you all think about Fluctuator? Would you have guessed that this card would be a menace and get itself banned within 6 months of being printed? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and be sure to let us know which cards you want showcased in the future. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Alright guys, that wraps up our 4th episode of MTG Breakfast. Let's give a big shout out to all the contributors for all of their awesome segments. And on a side note, because the end of the year is coming up, we are also going to be doing a very special episode of MTG Breakfast where we'll be covering all of the awesome and best of things that's happened this year. So things like playmats, events, promos, cards, and anything else you can think of, let us know in the comments below. We'll be covering all of that in this special episode, so look forward to that. And until then, I guess we'll see you next time.